This is CZ Custom SDP versus Beretta 92X Compact, a custom shop versus stock pistol talk video. Now before we hit the range, let's spend a moment to discuss why we picked the particular firearms we picked for this video. Now some people are going to say, well, if you're going to shoot the CZ Custom SDP, you should have got something like a Beretta from Langdon Tactical. And I agree 100% if that was the intent of this video. What we're doing in this video is we are looking at, from a consumer's perspective who walked into their local firearms store, and on one shelf they saw something like this CZ Custom SDP for a very expensive price for some people, and on the next shelf over they saw a Beretta 92 Compact Standard from, say, Beretta, with a, while still expensive, a less expensive price point on it. And they're very similarly equipped pistols, at least from the exterior: double stack, compact, decocker, single action, double action, home defense, personal protection, concealed carry purpose. So what's the difference in price get you, if anything, as far as, say, your average consumer? Let's point out, if we can, some of the pros and cons, some of the things that you get or you might not get as far as at that price point. And while we are using, say, the CZ Custom SDP here today and just our Beretta 92X Compact to represent our completely stock, unaltered firearm, we could have, if we had access to it, say we would have replaced, say, the Beretta with the Langdon Tactical one and a standard stock PO1 instead of the SDP, or any number of other firearms where this might be the case. What we're looking at here today is more of, what is the custom shop pistol versus the standard pistol in general get you or not get you. So anyway, let's hit the range. Okay, we're going to now do the Beretta 92 Compact against the CZ 75D Shadow Compact from CZ Custom. We're going to start with the Beretta here. 10 shots at our half-size silhouette target. First shot will be double action. Here we go. They were a little low on the target, but an okay group. Let's do the same thing now with our CZ 75. Same thing, first shot will be double action. Here we go. Now looking at our 5-yard target, it's probably too close to really tell a difference in terms of distance. I would say we have comparable groups between the two firearms. Our group from the Beretta, a little low of the bullseye. Our group from the SDP, a little right of the bullseye, but fairly comparable groups otherwise. We're going to push the target out to 10 yards for the next round, but before we do, let's get into some of the numbers on these firearms. The CZ Custom Compact SDP is 7.2 inches long, 5 inches high, 1.4 inches wide, and weighs in at 28.7 ounces. It has a 3.75 inch cold hammer forged barrel, an aluminum frame, and a steel slide. The Beretta 92 FSX Compact is 7.75 inches long, 5.25 inches high, 1.292 inches wide, and weighs in at 27.2 ounces. It features a 4.3 inch barrel with a aluminum frame and also a steel slide. While there are some slight differences in the numbers between the firearms, as you can see in our comparison shots here, they are very similar in size in terms of their dimensions, how they sit in the hand, things like that. They're similar firearms in terms of concealed carry, personal protection, home defense build. And now let's move on to that 10-yard target. Okay, we have pushed our target out to 10 yards now. Let's repeat our previous test here. We're going to start with the Beretta again, 10 shots. This time I'm going to shoot at the head of our silhouette target. First shot will be double action again. Here we go. Okay, now let's do our CZ75. Same thing, 10 shots at the head silhouette. First shot will be double action. Here we go. Looking at our 10-yard target here, I think we can say that first off, my double action shot from both firearms was probably equally terrible, but otherwise our groups again are probably fairly comparable. I don't think one is better than the other. There's probably a slight difference again, Beretta a little low, CZ maybe slightly left of where I was aiming, but that's just down to me, the shooter. That's not at all on the firearms. Believe me, there are people that will shoot these much better than me, which we're going to come back to in just a moment. Let's take a moment to talk about what makes the SDP different from just a stock CZ P01 or PCR. CZ Custom installs their competition hammer designed to work with the decocker. They polish the firing pin block, install solid firing pin stop and trigger pin. It has an extended firing pin, a stainless steel guide rod, and the CZ Custom CZ85 trigger. It also comes with a set of thin aluminum grips, not seen here. The sights are replaced with a set of tritium night sights. I'm probably going to say the name wrong here, but I believe the rear sight is a Hein Slant Pro rear sight. It has a very neat, what I call a double dot tritium night sight setup, where you create a snowman, in what I call it, where you have the dot on the bottom, the dot from the front sight in the middle to be the body. You create Frosty's head and put the nose on it, is the way that I aim and shoot this firearm. Here's a close-up of that CZ Custom 85 trigger. It's kind of a nice fatter trigger. Now some of our eagle-eyed viewers are probably going to notice that the firearm we're shooting here today has a slide that is stamped CZ75D Compact, though the frame does not match what would have come on that PCR. The frame for the firearm is the P01 frame. Interesting. Well, that's something that actually happens from time to time with CZs. Some people might consider those more collectible or unicorn guns, or go out of their way to try to find them. I'm not so sure on that front. I think it's just one of the quirks of CZ and a byproduct of how they make guns in batches and sort of fulfill orders, and when they have leftover parts, they just slap things together and send them to the American market because, well, hey, we're the American market and we're just going to snatch them up. Now let's revisit my 10-yard target here for a moment. Again, this is my target. The crew fired in the next lane over, again, much like our previous video on the 97B versus the 1911. The same targets, the same guns, the same ammo as me off camera as a comparison. Their Beretta group very similar to mine on this 10-yard target. However, with the CZ SDP being their firearm at 10 yards, all 10 of their shots were in the space of a silver dollar at the eye of the target, and it was fantastic for them. Of course, it's their firearm. They practice with it regularly. That would be expected. When I asked about that after their session of shooting at the target, they said, in their opinion, the difference to them came down to the difference in sights between the firearms and not the subtle differences in terms of their trigger pulls. So keep that in mind. Now let's push the target out to 25 yards and see how we do at that distance.
We are live.
All right, here we go. We're going to do our final round here at our half-size silhouette target. Now we're at 25 yards. We're going to do 10 shots with the Beretta, followed by 10 shots from the CZ, center mass. First shot will again be double action. Starting with the Beretta. Here we go. All right, now we are going to do 10 shots with the CZ. First shot, double action. Wow, okay. Looking at our 25-yard target here, by my count, I had 6 of 10 on the silhouette with the 92 compact compared to 8 of 10 with the SDP. Now I do think if we repeated that a few times, we would probably get similar results. And I think for me personally, that also comes down to the sights, much like what the crew experienced with their shoot, where they did 4 of 10 with the Beretta, 10 of 10 with the SDP. Now let's get to the conclusion of our video. One thing we saw, I think, at our targets at 5 and 10 yards, for your average shooter like myself, that we saw similar performance in terms of the groups putting holes in paper at 5 and 10 yards. Though when we pushed the target out to 25 yards, we did see what I'm going to call a noticeable difference between me shooting the Beretta 92X compact versus the CZ Custom compact SDP. 6 hits versus 8 out of 10. That's kind of a big difference. Now a lot of that, as I said, I think comes down to the sights on the firearms, but I do think there are other differences that the fine folks at CZ Custom did that do come into play. Yes, there are differences in the trigger pull. While there are some slight differences in trigger pull weight, and here's one interesting one, shooting it here at the range, when we were shooting the Beretta next to the CZ, the crew said, you know, I think your Beretta has a lighter double action trigger pull than what's on this SDP. And it turns out, if we look at numbers on a page, the CZ Custom Compact SDP has a double action trigger set around 8.5 to 9 pounds. Now off my gauge, my 92 compact has a double action trigger that's between 7 and 7.5 pounds. So that actually is quite a bit different than what we saw on our SDP here today. Now there is another side to that equation. The custom shop, with all the polishing and different things they've done, tuning springs and whatnot, while that is a, say, off the gauge, a heavier trigger pull weight on the SDP, it's a smoother trigger pull. And when you get to things like the single action trigger on it, there's less take up on it. You have less reach on the trigger, follow through, whatever, all these terms that I'm probably butchering right now. But there is a noticeable difference in terms of the trigger between a custom shotgun versus your factory gun. Now, is it a huge difference? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. In this case, I would say we had sort of a middle of the range difference, if you will. There was a noticeable difference. Was it huge enough to impact our groups as much as our target change? No. I think the biggest difference here between the two firearms we shot today was the difference in the sights. Now, that being said, do I think what we're going to say, a double the price in terms of the CZ Custom versus our stock Beretta, do I think it was worthwhile? Absolutely. For shooters where you're looking for something to take you to that next sort of edge, to where you're like, okay, I've sort of plateaued, I can't get any better, I'm shooting softball-sized groups, I want to shoot baseball-sized groups. The differences between your stock firearm at that point and your custom shop firearm are going to come more into play. They're going to sort of camouflage your deficiencies more and make it easier to make your strengths come into light. You know, so you will see your sort of softball size groups come into more of a golf ball size groups at 5, 10, 15, and definitely you will see an improvement, at least for me and in my experience with shooters in the crew, out to even 25 yards, where you see a noticeable difference. Here today we saw, for myself, I did 8 of 10 at 25 yards. The crew did 10 of 10 at 25 yards, and they did it very easily. In fact, to the point where when I got done doing video today, it was like, we should have probably had you be the focus of our video shooting today, not me, because you shot one firearm significantly better and better represented it than what I did. And, you know, well, hey, that's the nature of the beast in terms of being the content creator and the focus of the video sometimes. So all in all, do I think that the stock Beretta 92 Compact is a very serviceable, perfectly reliable, adequate home defense, personal protection, concealed carry firearm? Absolutely. It's a very good firearm. We featured it in many videos on this channel, and it's been 100% reliable. And for me, when I am actually practiced with it, which I'm out of practice right now, it does very good for me in both single action and double action. The transition from single action to double action can be very easy for me, and it's all around a very good firearm. Now, one thing we saw here today with the CZ Custom SDP is, while it's not my firearm and it's not one that I shoot very often, because of the work that the fine folks at CZ Custom has done, and it's such an easy firearm for someone like me to shoot, is that while I don't practice with it, you could probably say that it outshot the Beretta for me here today, which probably says something. Now, does that mean that it's worth double the price point? Well, for some people, yes. For some people, no. Was it so much better? I don't know. For me, marginal better. But if your budget says that marginal better is worth that, well, you know, hey, your budget is your budget, not mine. More power to you. Well, anyway, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a good day.